Okay, so as I say, the basis of today's change, what I'm going to go through today is addressing the under 24's push on employment. I'm going to be covering the three big areas, which are the cash incentives, which are now available to you as an employer, the three training changes from the 1st of August, and the Universal Credit Youth Jobs Grant, which is available now. I'm also going to be taking you through I'm taking this opportunity to take you through the update on the current reforms for the new Level 3 Early Years Educator, which is launching from the 1st of November. So by the end of this session, you will know exactly what you can claim and what's changing and what you can do next. So before we start, I know there's familiar faces in here, but there's also employers that might have been not previously worked with apprenticeships. So I'm just going to give a quick reminder of what an apprenticeship is. An apprenticeship means that somebody is employed throughout. They are not a student on placement. They have a work contract in place for working normal hours and paid employees. Their learning is work-based and reflects their working practices in the setting. They are supported by a development coach who visits the setting, completes monthly teaching sessions, progress reviews, and ensures off-the-job training is being completed. The apprenticeship standard is a qualification that is nationally recognised, full and relevant, and the same Level 3 Early Years Educator, whether it's funded or not funded privately, as an apprenticeship, it is a free route. The important thing to remember with the Level 3 Early Years Educator, that the name Early Years Educator must be in the title for it to be full and relevant. The new apprenticeship reform from November will see the duration of apprenticeships change to the minimum of 8 months, which was previously 12 months. So a learner can be on program from anywhere between 8 to 15 months, depending on their prior experience, which is assessed at the beginning of the qualification and when we complete their initial skills scans and their initial assessments. Apprentices also need to meet eligibility requirements, which means living in the UK for the past 3 years on a valid visa and not receiving any other educational government funding. Okay. So, what's changed? So before I explain the incentives in detail, it's important to be aware that from September 25, that some of the apprenticeship terminology has also changed. However, in this interim period, we will refer to both the previous and current new labels, so you know where we are and where we stand. But basically, it's the labels that have changed. The key points are the big structural change is the Department of Work and Pensions, the DWP, not the Department of Education, now leads on apprenticeships and follows the machinery of government changes from the September 25. This is why the Universal Credit Youth Jobs Grant is directly paid by the Department of Work and Pensions. Okay, the Digital Apprenticeship Service, as we often called as DAS account, is going to be called the Apprenticeship Service. This is the employer portal for managing apprenticeship accounts and funding, which will be managed by ourselves and approved by yourselves. The Endpoint Assessment, EPA, will be called Apprenticeship Assessment. I will explain why a little bit later on, why that endpoint has been taken away. And which is the main reason is because the assessment can happen at any stage, not just at the end. I will go into that in more detail later. Endpoint Assessment Organisation, that is the awarding body, is just going to be known as the assessment organisation. They will still design the assessment materials and they will still ensure quality and they will still complete their final assessments, apprenticeship assessments. The Endpoint Assessment Plan will now be known as the Apprenticeship Assessment Plan, which makes up the Learner's Training Plan and sets out the minimum requirements for each of the standard assessments. And then the word gateway, where we have our gateway meeting to check the learner is ready to go in for their endpoint assessments. That is now going to be called Gateway to Completion. This is because it's going to be a pre-assessed checkpoint, no longer a fixed window, which can start anywhere from month 4 on the new apprenticeship reforms. And I will go into that a little bit later, how that will work. Okay, so the big headline: training is free for apprenticeships aged to 16-24. Basically, the 5% employer contribution for under 25s, currently it's under 21s, but that is raising to under 25s for non-levy settings, is removed entirely. Therefore, the vast majority of nurseries, the government will now fund 100% of training, and the assessment cost for apprentices aged 16 to 24. So that £350 for the level 3 early years educator will entirely disappear. And remember that if you also have an apprentice that's 16 to 18, you will also receive the £1,000 young hire incentive too. So I've just mentioned the £1,000 current incentive payments. We now have, from October the 1st, 2026, a £2,000 hiring grant. Most nurseries will qualify. If you are non-levy and looking to recruit an apprentice aged 16 to 24, and the apprentice started with you within the correct time frame from 3 months prior to the 1st of October, which brings us to the 2nd of July, you will be entitled to £2,000 incentive payments. The 90-day employment rule is measured from the apprentice's practical period start date, their apprenticeship learning start date, not from when the funding year begins. So an apprentice must not have been employed by you for more than 90 calendar days before their learning start date. However, at the moment, there is a special exemption. So if you have an apprentice that started employment with you from the 1st or 2nd of July and starts their apprenticeship training on the 1st of October, they are still eligible, even though it's more than 90 days. This is specifically for the government concession for the October launch of this new hiring grant incentive. There is also no minimum hours. Apprentices on part-time and 0-hour contracts are entitled to, still be entitled to the payment. And payments will be paid at 90 days and after their learning start date, and then at 8 months or at a year, depending on when their learning end date is. Your training provider will administer the payments on your behalf. Basically, the money will come to us and we then forward it to yourselves. It is important to remember, if you already have someone on payroll and you want to put them on an apprenticeship, the 90-day rule still applies from their learning start date. Therefore, the staff member must be less than 3 months employed by you before starting the apprenticeship. Okay? So, how does this benefit your setting? Let's look at the actual costings that you could be entitled to. As a non-levy employer, you could potentially receive up to £6,000 of incentives. If we look at the figures and how they add up, you will see the government has generally made apprenticeships cost-free for non-levy employers when hiring under 25s to attract young people into work. First, we have the removal of the 5% employer contribution from the 1st of August. Therefore, if you add up the different incentives, we have the £1,000 current 16 to 18 incentive, plus we add on the new £2,000 19 to 24 hiring grant incentive for small to medium employers. That will equal £3,000. Plus, on top of that, potentially £3,000 for universal credit grant hire, which is available for all employers, whether you're levy or non-levy. So potentially you could receive up to £6,000. These changes, alongside the 8-month minimum EPA window, will mean apprentices will reach their qualification faster, which will help with ratios and retention. So let's look at the nitty-gritty of how the incentives add up with each one. In the first column, you have the £1,000 young apprentice payment, which is available now for all employers aged for apprentices aged 16 to 18 or 19 to 24 with an EHCP or care leaver status, and this is paid for by the training provider. We then have the second column, the £2,000 small to medium hiring incentive, which is new, available from the 1st of October. For non-levy employers only. New apprentices aged 16 to 24. Therefore, staff members who started employment with you from the 2nd of July, and this will be paid in 2 instalments via your training provider at 90 days and at the end. Then you have the £3,000 Universal Credit Youth Jobs Grant, which is available now to all employers for 18 to 24-year-olds claiming universal credit for at least 6 months. This is paid directly to you by the Department of Work and Pensions, not via the training provider. Therefore, when you're hiring your apprentices, always ask them if they're 18 to 24, if they've been currently claiming universal credit. Therefore, if you stack the 3 columns up together, we have £1,000 in new young learner, £2,000 hiring grant, and the £3,000 youth jobs grant, which each £6,000, plus the free training for 16 to 24, and the no employer national insurance contributions for under 25. This means this is an excellent time to recruit and train your staff. I've also given you some examples on the screen. For an 18-year-old who's been on universal credit for 6 months from the October, you will get 1,000 plus 2,000 and the 3,000 universal credit, which equals 6,000. Or a 20-year-old on universal credit, as 6 months will get their 2,000 hiring grants and the 3,000 universal youth jobs grants, which equal £5,000. Okay. Also to note, for those of you who have potential apprentices over 25, there is also an option to request a levy transfer to cover the co-investment costs. Okay. I know this is going to throw up some questions here, so please feel free to put any questions in the chat box, which I'll come to at the end. So as I've just mentioned, levy transfer. This is a less well-known route, but worth mentioning for non-levy or those who want to use it alongside other funding for under 25s. This is where you can co-request levy transfer from a large organisation, for example, Transport for London or Supermarket or the National Health Trust. They will transfer up to 50% of their levy pot to smaller employers. This can be requested via the Apprenticeship Service portal. I have the steps on the screen for you. However, the key requirement is that you need to have an Apprenticeship Service account, previously known as the DAS account. We can support you with this process if you're unsure how to set it up and unsure how to apply. And we can set up a demo to take you through that if you need it. I will give you later on. I'll give you a link to book yourself in for a demo. However, once you've applied for that levy transfer and it's been approved, which can take anywhere from 10 days up to 6 weeks, it all depends on the organisation that you're requesting the transfer from. It is valid up to 3 months to use that funding. And you can also apply for it as many times as you need. So it's well worth knowing for those of you who've got apprentices over 25. Okay, the new Level 3 Early Years Educator, which is being reformed from the 1st of November 26. I thought this is, as I've got you all here, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to briefly explain what we currently know about the new assessment plan for the new reform. I must clarify that we're still waiting for some areas to be confirmed, but I just wanted to give you an idea and outline what it will potentially look like from the 1st of November. There will be three main assessments, and some of it you might be familiar with, but the main one will be the observation, which will be carried out by the assessment organisation, previously known as the EPAO. This is the primary assessment and will take place in your setting, very similar to the placement observations that the learners are currently doing. This will be the main grading components, and it will be based on the play environment and more likely supported by the training pack as we're seeing at the moment. There will then be other assessments. At the moment, it is not confirmed, but it is likely to include a child case study and or written assessments. We are waiting confirmation from the awarding body on whether these will be assessed by ourselves, the training providers, or by the awarding body. And as soon as we have confirmation of this, we will communicate and let you know. However, the big change is the behaviours. This is going to be the main change for you as assessors. So as employers, as you will need to take a direct role in the assessment of your apprentice behaviours. You will formally assess whether your apprentice consistently demonstrates the professional values and conduct in the workplace. We will provide you with a simple framework to support you with this. As already mentioned, the assessment can start as early as month 4, and assessments can be completed throughout the programme. This is why it is important that we're working with employers to know when you feel they are ready to take their assessments, because it could be earlier than planned. However, what I do want to reassure you, because you're probably wondering how you're going to fit this into your day and etc. and what it's going to look like. We will train and we will fully brief you on the new standard and the behaviours of the assessment and how it will apply to the apprentice in your setting, so you will have full support on it. So why is the reform standard better for your setting? I just thought it's important to let you know that the reason before it and how and what it will do to make it to benefit your setting. The reform moves to the standard to a positive direction to reflect work-based practice, as the employer has a direct role in their learners' progress. The process will be streamlined to reflect their practice and what they're doing. Therefore, completion and achievement rates should improve. The shorter 8-month EPA window means if the apprentice is ready, they will be able to complete their qualification faster, which for you will mean better for ratios and better for retention. Your voice counts. You will now have a formal role in the outcome. You see your apprentice every day, so you are best placed to make those judgments on their behaviours and the assessment which reflects that. There's going to be less pressure on the apprentice. Fewer separate assessments, flexible approach to gateway into completion, a cleaner endpoint, less risk of withdrawal, and so close to completion. However, it's important to remember the qualifications unchanged. It is still nationally recognised as a Level 3 early years educator. The reform improves the journey, not the destination. Important to note that the quality will remain high. There will be apprentices who can complete in 8 months. However, there will also be apprentices who will need longer, 12 months or more, to develop, and we will ensure they are supported and well prepared for their assessments accordingly. This is a positive change. If you're unsure how to support the behaviours, we will, as I've mentioned, provide a clear framework and support throughout. So, next steps. We have a clear process to support employers and we will guide you. The next steps for you is to think about the training needs in your setting, or if you need help with recruitment, which we can also support with via our own website and through the apprenticeship service account. Also remember, when recruiting, to check if they're on universal credit, so you could potentially be entitled to that £3,000. We can support you with registration, apprenticeship, service, recruitment, funding and grant administration. And to give you an idea of the process it will look like, in step 1, contact us. Let us know your possible apprentices. We would check their eligibility for funding, discuss options depending on the learner's experience, qualifications, and qualifications. Step 2, we will complete the skill scan with the apprentice and agree a start point, and we'll work with you regarding the levy transfer if applicable. Step 3, onboarding meeting. The apprenticeship paperwork is completed, the apprenticeship server approval is confirmed, and the start induction date is booked. Remember that the importance of the start date is the learning must take place, and the start date that is agreed, the learning must take place on that agreed first date. Step 4, training begins. Monthly coaching sessions, regular development coach visits, regular communication on how your learner is progressing on their program, so we can work with both the learner and yourselves to ensure that they're securely supported. And then step 5, the hiring grants are triggered at 90-day milestone. Anyone who is working with us will know we will contact you when we receive the funding to let you know and organise payments. Plus, remember, if you have somebody with a universal credit grants hire, that will be directly paid to you by the Department of Work and Pensions. The key message for August: the hiring grant starts from now, if they start on program from August the 1st. Young apprentice costs nothing to train and earns you up to £6,000. The reform standard is good news for nurseries, and now is a good time to start. So finally, before I look at your questions, if you're not familiar with us, I just want you to make you aware of the experience to ensure your apprentices have a meaningful journey with ourselves. We are earlier sector professionals, which consist of experienced qualified teachers, former practitioners and managers who understand the demands of nursery life. Every employer and apprentice gets a named development coach. We don't just disappear after enrolment. We implement a personalised approach with one-to-one teaching sessions organised around the nursery needs. In January, fresh on the new educational spectrum framework, we had our Ofsted inspection and was recognised for our strong curriculum quality. Our figures speak for themselves, with our EPA at 100% pass rates and 94% first-time pass rates. Our a distinction pass rate is at 89% for our level 3s, and also our functional skills has an 80% first-time pass rate. We will handle all the admin. We have a strong team with us with the support with the apprenticeship service registration, submit funding, and the EPA preparation. So if you're ready to get started, now is a good time to think about your training and staff development. We can organise a demo for the levy transfer if you need it. So once you've identified your 16 to 24-year-old, or if you have somebody over 25, let us know. You can click on the QR code I've put on the screen in front of you, which will let me know who would like a copy of the presentation and the handout. Also, if you would like further support. Remember to ask any new hire age 18 to 24 whether they're claiming universal credit, as the £3,000 grant credit is available now and paid directly to you. And remember, from November 26, the reform standard launches. We will communicate that as soon as we have more information. There's a QR code on the screen for short feedback form, and we always appreciate your feedback for us. And if you want copies of what I've completed today, on the screen, I've also got details of our website, and I've also, when you get this, I will also give you links to the apprenticeship funding rules and other links that will support you. If there's one thing before we go into questions I want you to take away from today, is to remember, from the 1st of August, training for a young apprentice will cost you nothing. This is a significant change, and we're here to make the most out of it for you. Okay, have we got the chat box? Have we got some questions? Yes, please. Okay, great question. If are they on have they been on your payroll? Have they if they've been on your payroll, if they've been on your payroll, then the importance is not whether they've been with their training provider, it's whether they've been on your payroll. So if they've been on your payroll, it is a good one about re-employing. I wouldn't suggest not employ or dismissing someone and re-employing them. But if they previously employed maybe a year ago and they've come back, um, that is a good question. I will double check on that, but they have to be in the last 3 months. So I will double check on if it's somebody that has maybe I will need to check if there's a timeline on it, but technically they have to have been in the last 3 months. Okay. Levy pay employer. So levy pay employer. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I'm a levy paying employer. So you will still be entitled to the £1,000 young person's incentive. The employer, the new £2,000 won't be appropriate for you, but you will be entitled if you hire somebody, a young person 16 to 24 who's been on universal credits on the youth. You will receive the grant for that instead. Okay. We are paying apprentice levy each month. Are we eligible for a grant? Are you? So if you've got somebody under 24, that co-investment will go. Okay, you will not need to pay any more payments. From August of 24, you will not need to pay any more payments. So if you've got somebody with you at the moment that you're paying the apprenticeship levy, that will stop from the 1st of August. And it automatically will happen through the funding through the apprenticeship service. So it's all triggered through the apprenticeship service which we manage. Okay. If you have, what I'm going to say, if you have particular apprentices you want to go in situations, more than happy. You've got the QR code on the screen. Please drop us a note and we'll get back to you, either organise a demo for the apprenticeship levy transfer or organise to have a chat with you about your potential apprentices or recruitment needs, or just, if you have somebody, or whether that, where they are in terms of their visas, we're here to help. So just let us know. Okay, any more questions? Oh, somebody said the PowerPoint. Yes, we're going to have our handouts. Lovely. There's no further questions. As I'll be really grateful for your feedback. It's lovely to see you all here, and hopefully we'll be speaking to you all soon. And as I say, this is a best ever time to get to look at your training needs and see what you can do to upskill your staff moving forward. Thank you very much for your time today.